Well, for more on today's news, let's cross to Mohsen Milani. He's the executive director at the University of South Florida Center for Strategic and Diplomatic Studies. He joins us from Tampa, Florida. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So what's your reaction in terms of the potential economic impact of President Trump's withdrawal from Iran's nuclear deal?
Well, my initial reaction is that I am deeply disappointed by this decision, and I'm worried about the future of a very dangerous region of the world, the Middle East. And also, I am frankly not surprised that the president has made that decision. We were expecting him to get out of the nuclear deal, but the fact that now he is going to reimpose oil sanctions on Iranian financial and banking institutions, it is going to create a major economic headache for Iran. But if the administration thinks that this is going to that if this is going to change Iranian behavior in the region, they're going to be surprised. If you go back to 2005, from 2005 to 2015-16, when we had the historic nuclear agreement, we had crippling sanctions on Iran. An Iranian nuclear program made huge advances. At the beginning, there were only 600 or 700 centrifuges. And by 2015, Iran had over 21,000 centrifuges. In 2005, Iran could not enrich uranium more than 3%. By 2015, Iran was one of the handful countries in the world that had mastered the technology to enrich uranium at 20%. In other words, Iran is going to react too, but at this time, I think President Rouhani has made a wise decision. Right. He said he is going to negotiate, to talk to the Europeans, to the Chinese, to the Russians, to see if they can have a nuclear deal without the U.S. So whether they can do it or not is yet to be seen.
So then let's look at some of the impact that the deal has already had. So to what degree has the Iran nuclear deal impacted Iranian consumers and businesses since it was first being signed?
I think one of the big mistakes that the Rouhani government made was to increase people's expectation about the nuclear deal. His government kept telling people that if we strike a deal with the U.S., all the sanctions are going to be removed. And now, almost 3 years after the historic nuclear deal, not all the sanctions have been removed, and the Iranian economy has not performed as well as it should have, and people are extremely disappointed with the economic performance in their country.
So what went wrong? Why didn't it meet expectations?
Well, part of it is because I think the Rouhani administration had very high expectations. They really thought that all the sanctions are going to be removed. As long as Mr. Obama was in power, many of the sanctions were released. But the minute President Obama was inaugurated last year, I believe he created a kind of uncertainty in the uncertainty in the international community, and therefore European companies, Chinese companies, etc., were reluctant to enter into the Iranian economic system. I'm sorry, I keep hearing some noise in my earphone. That's why I was confused.
No problem. I know you meant President Trump there rather than President Obama just then. But let's talk about the trade partners then. Which trade partners could Iran potentially turn to offset some of these U.S. sanctions?
At this time, I think it is too early to say, because we don't know what kind of sanctions the U.S. will impose, and whether there is going to be loopholes in those sanctions, exemptions in those sanctions. We don't know that. These are the kind of things that must be negotiated, and this is perhaps why President Rouhani has indicated that Iran wants to talk to the Europeans and to the Russians and to the Chinese in the next 4 or 5 weeks to see if they can find a way to address some of the concerns and the fears Iran has. But I have no doubt that if the U.S. is serious about imposing sanctions on Iranian oil and financial institutions, this is going to create major headaches for Iranian economy, an economy that is at this time not performing very well.
All right, thank you so much for your insight. Mohsen Milani, Executive Director at the University of South Florida Center for Strategic and Diplomatic Studies.